And this doesn't have to be long. It's just all about common sense. Doesn't have to be long. In a few moments, I'll sign a historic executive order to ban men from competing in women's sports. It's about time.
By the way, this actually might be the first Trump video that I've done that affects families. You know, here we talk about marriages, relationships, families. And that's not fake news, right? That's not fake news. It's actually real. Because we've had some bullshit that's come my way of people claiming family court laws are being changed and so on and so forth. Let's see, please.
Under the Trump administration, we will defend the proud tradition of female athletes, and we will not allow men to beat up, injure, and cheat our women and our girls. From now on, women's sports will be only for women.
He said beat up and cheat. That's hilarious. This almost has like 2 million views on this video. We just posted it just yesterday.
But before going further, I want to share some very exciting news from our military. After years of shrinking force numbers at levels that nobody has ever seen before, 4 years of this we went through, and missed recruiting targets every single month, it was just announced that in December, the U.S. Army had its single best recruitment in more than 15 years. Thanks.
Wow. Interesting.
Every single day, nearly 350 new soldiers enlisted to defend our nation, and they're very, very happy to have done so. We've done lots of interviews, and we asked why this was taking place now, and they just said there's a spirit about our country that they haven't seen in many, many years.
This commenter says, crazy how we need an executive order for this. You know, that's not really that crazy if you really think about it, man. Not really that crazy at all. People don't understand that these are the issues that grabbed most voters' attention from what we saw. These were the issues that they put in the forefront and center to convince the popular vote to go towards Trump. I think it's really interesting that when it comes to this particular issue, people are like, we all agree on this. This is nothing to really talk about, when this was a real thing. Very obviously pushed into a lot of sports, entertainment, in a lot of people's face.
And I happen to agree with that. But it really is clear proof that the spirit is sweeping our armed forces, and we have a great leader in Pete. As you know, we all know Pete so well. He's going to be fantastic, and so many of our great heroes, and people are starting to understand what hero is all about. So that is something that is very important. We've gotten the woke lunacy out of our military. And now we're very importantly getting it out of women's sports. That's taking place very strongly.
This chick here says, this is protecting women. I think a lot of chicks wouldn't agree, right? Like, they don't like that they lost the right to get punched in the face by grown men. I think that's crazy.
So in recent years, the radical left has waged an all-out campaign to erase the very concept of biological sex and replace it with a militant transgender ideology. You've heard a little bit about this, haven't you? Huh? Just a little bit? Does anybody agree with them? No. Would be not a good thing to say yes right here. Female athletes have been forced onto the front lines, and men claiming to be girls have stolen more than 3,500 victories. That's a lot.
Damn.
And invaded more than 11,000 competitions designed for women. Last year, a male cyclist posing as a woman competed in the 800-mile Arizona Trail Race, a very big deal in cycling, and obliterated the women's course record by nearly 5.5 hours.
The choice of words is hilarious. Obliterated.
Sounds like a lot, doesn't it, huh? 5.5 hours. So, but you have to hear the weightlifting records. You think that's bad. The weightlifting's worse. In 2023, a man in women's power lifting, broke 2 world records, and outlifted his closest female opponent in one event by 440 pounds. And they continue to defend themselves, Mr. Congressman. You know that, right? They continue to defend themselves. We hope they continue onward because I don't think we can lose a race. This was one of the big reasons that we all won, and it's one of the big reasons that we had a record, a landslide like they haven't seen before, very often anyway.
I think that's true. Most people, like I said, I've seen who are downplaying issues like this don't understand that for a lot of people, especially people who have families, right? If you have a family, if you're a father, if you have if you have daughters who are interested in sports, and this really worried you, like this here commenter, this man says, "I have 2 daughters who are both athletes. Trump's signing brought tears to my eyes." Now, of course, I don't have any daughters who are actually competing, but you definitely thought about that, or at least I did. Now I don't have to really think about this. You see these issues and you think like, man, public school is crazy. Maybe private school could be the best thing if you can afford it. Most people can't afford to send their kids to private school. But this does cross a lot of parents' minds when they're discussing topics of what is a woman and will my daughter have to be in bathrooms with grown men? These are all issues that were real. And to sit there and act like these issues were issues that growing families, future families weren't concerned about is just being plain delusional. I thought about this a lot, and I only address topics when I'm in times when I think it affects marriages, families, and children. And this right here, I'm thankful for.
And who could forget last year's Paris Olympics, where a male boxer stole the women's gold medal after brutalizing his female opponent so viciously that she had to forfeit just after 46 seconds, and she was a championship fighter. And actually, they had 2 women or 2 people that transitioned, and both of them won gold medals, and they won them very convincingly. But all of that ends today because with this executive order, the war on women's sports is over.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Thank you, everybody. Right. It should have been done long ago, actually. Thank you. Thank you very much. With my action this afternoon, we're putting every school receiving taxpayer dollars on notice that if you let men take over women's sports teams or invade your locker rooms, you will be investigated for violations of Title IX and risk your federal funding. There will be no federal funding.
So I'm first of all, thank goodness to that too. I think if you're a father and you're thinking of your kids going to school, no one wants to think about this stuff. Regular people who have families today don't want to deal with this. They don't want to deal with this. They don't want to think about their daughter being in some bathroom and a boy walking in there who is dealing with gender dysphoria, claiming to be a girl. They just don't want to deal with this. And the other thing I'm wondering is what happens now? What happens to transgender sports? I've heard a lot of people talk about how they should start their own league. I've even heard, I think it was, what's that one scientist's name? Really, really, really liberal scientist who was talking. He sounded like he was for the whole male and female sports thing. Man. I think Neil deGrasse. I forgot his name, but I just remember him saying we can categorize athletes based on testosterone. I mean, come on.
So this will effectively end the attack on female athletes at public K-12 schools and virtually all U.S. colleges and universities. I don't think we've missed anything, but if we do, we'll make it up very quickly with an order. And I don't think we will at all. I want to, before we go on, I want to thank so many people that have worked so hard in the political establishment, and they're before me largely. And I think I'm going to miss a few. It always happens when you do this, but it's just one of those things. But we have many senators here, many governors here, many state attorneys generals here. They're all over the place, actually. I see. Some of them went after me, but they failed.
I have a comment here that says, finally, something I can agree with him on. I think most people agree with this. But if you really think about that, right? If most people, even those that don't support Donald Trump, are saying, I agree with this, the question is, why was it so in our face? And the answer to that is obviously, you see a lot of these companies who did not care about these issues at all, but they co-opted a lot of these social movements because they knew what? It would drive sales. And it was almost like these topics were front and center, or at least should be, but really you were seeing all these companies who are capitalizing on these social issues, investing all this ad revenue, and it's in your face, and it's in your face, and you're thinking like, wow, does everybody agree with this? Until somebody's like, hey, no more. And here we are. Most people are saying that they agree that, yes, men should not be allowed to compete with women in sports. All right. I want to see who else is talking about this. We're over here back at, this is the Spiritual Word. They released this. Donald Trump has signed an executive order aimed at banning transgender athletes from competing in women's sports. The reason why I want to go to an IG page is because I know there are a lot of usually contradicting opinions when it comes to everything Trump's done so far, even on the Spiritual Word, right? I want to test the temperature and see if I am correct. And here we go. Good. I don't need Joanna man knocking out my daughter in female sports with male strength. So just like I thought, here you have a lot of women who actually agree with this. Somebody else who says, we the people as a whole don't disagree with this one. Here's somebody else who says, the fact that this was needed is sad. Shouldn't have gotten this far. I will forever die on the heel of modern feminism today. Created this, and they are their own worst enemy, and they just don't know when to stop. At some point, we all know that feminists defended this. Oh yeah, she's a woman too. I mean, you had the whole documentary, which is produced by Matt Walsh, titled "What is a Woman?" And in those videos, you saw all these liberal chicks who were very, very plainly unable to actually define what a woman is. I bet you after this, you will see that most people just sway with whatever is popular, and they'll now be all of a sudden be able to define what a woman is. Another comment here says, okay, I agree with this. Here's someone else that says, when you're right, you're right. So here's someone else says, this I agree with. I don't see anybody, but there have to be people who actually agree with. Some weird people will still have something against the decision. Let's see. Yes, those Democrats are full of hate. Let's see. The first executive that I actually agreed. Really? This is the only executive you actually agreed on? Somebody else who says this is fair. Yikes, this commenter says. Don't see an issue with this. Huh. Listen, from what it looks like, most people are here saying, oh yeah, I agree with this. I don't see anything wrong with this. But you got to ask yourself, what happened to all those ads? What happened to all the pushing of trans athletes competing against women in female sports? Anyways, as always, I appreciate you checking out yet another episode of the Coffee Pod. To my currently engaged and soon to be married men, do not hesitate to head over to fathershaverights.com and capitalize while it's still available on the number one guide to drafting a solid and legally binding prenuptial agreement. Consider joining Brew Brothers, a community of men who value marriage, fatherhood, and family in our modern day. Appreciate you. Till next time. I'm back. Peace.